I'm honored to be here. I'm thankful for Ashton for inviting me to be the speaker here at the first networking for alumni. Today I want to talk to you about social capital. And three things I want to talk about today are how to amplify your social capital through listening, adding value, and being a connector. I want to start by sharing a story with you. This is the quintessential David and Goliath story. Back in the 50s, this lady named Jane Jacobs. She was not a college graduate. She worked primarily her entire life as a secretary, and later she started working for an architect firm, and she learned about urban development. So as a real estate person, that story already fascinated me. She later wrote a book, Death and Life of the American Cities. Conversely, you have Robert Moses, Ivy League graduate. He was a politician. He was America's builder. He built all of the Northeast. If you're from the Northeast, you've probably been on his roads. He's built roads, bridges, and the Lincoln Center. At the time, the country wanted to build a 6-lane highway through Manhattan that was going to be called the Lower Manhattan Expressway. And Jane, as a community organizer, met with the neighbors because they wanted to oppose this Lower Manhattan Highway. They fought for 12 years. 12 years. No, not the 12 years of slavery, but 12 years. And ultimately, Jane actually won that battle. Now, when you talk about Jane and you find out why and how they won that battle, here's what we found. Although among a lot of things that caused Jane and her side to win the battle, she talked about social capital. What is social capital? She explained social capital is really the connection that you have with people in your area that has a value, because your neighbors, the people that live around you, the shop owner, the business people, there's a value with the people that you know, the connection that you have. And she claimed that if this Lower Manhattan Highway was built in Manhattan, it would have destroyed tens of thousands of homes through eminent domain. If you're a real estate person, you understand eminent domain. And she claimed that that would have destroyed the social capital that existed in that area. And so when I started thinking about that, I said, you know what? Social capital is not just about real estate, but there's a certain value to the people that we know and the connections that we have. So the three things we're going to talk about is be a listener. I'll give you a quick story. About 5 years ago, I met a lady here at UCF. Her name is Sarah Drayhall. Some of you may know her. And she approached me about being more involved with UCF, and I wanted to be more involved with UCF. But she did something interesting. She and I spent 2 hours during breakfast talking, and she was so intently involved in my conversation, wanting to know what I did and what was important to me, that we consider ourselves friends now. But here's the thing that she did. She talked less and listened more. So as a networker, you want to talk less and listen more and ask good questions. A lot of folks, when they network, first thing you want to do is I want to tell you what I do, right? Instead, she wants to know, what do you do and how can I help you? And she didn't stress about saying the right things. She just wanted to have a conversation, and she always used the term, let's have a meaningful conversation. And now if I call her, she's going to answer, hey friend, and we literally look at each other as friends. And throughout this relationship, I valued the relationship. I'll give you a quick story. About a year ago, I received a call from someone that she knew who said, Sarah Drayhall highly recommended your company. I spoke to this guy for 30 minutes. He didn't ask me about rates were for managing his properties. He ended up signing a contract with us. Right before he got off the phone, he said, by the way, what do you charge? Because she had sold him on me, because she knew so much about my business. The next one is adding value. About 10 years ago, I met a man my age. He had just started his management company. We started 12 years ago. Manetta knows that. And he wanted someone to mentor him. So I spent time with him, breakfast, lunch, sometimes dinners with he and his wife. and I went to his office to help him with the processes to get his business off the ground. So I tried to repeat what I've learned from all these great networkers. So I was intentional about talking to this guy. And I wanted to understand his goals. What are your goals? And I knew he said to me he wanted to have a passive business that he can eventually sell one day. Didn't pay too much attention to that, but I heard that's what he wanted to do. Anybody familiar with the BNI, Business Network International? What is the motto for BNI? Giver's Gain. Now the thing about giver's gain is this, it's not a transactional thing, right? If I do something for you, I want you to do something for me in return. I always talk about this, but I'll do a demonstration. Giver's gain, I believe, it is a universal law. There are some scientists in here, so I don't want to botch this up. You know, the law of gravity, so what happens if I drop this pen? It's going to fall. Well, giver's gain is the idea that if you give, you will get probably tenfold in return. Now the thing is, it's not going to be from the same person. So if you're doing that, that's transactional, that's not authentic. You just have to understand and believe, just as you believe that this pen was going to fall, that if you give, you're likely to return tenfold. And so I gave my time, my resources, didn't charge him as a consultant. Guess what? 5 years later, he called me out of the blue and said, hey, I'm looking to sell my business. I couldn't think of anybody else to sell my business to than you. So we ended up buying his business in Lake Mary. So that's why we moved from South Florida to Lake Mary, because we bought another management company. So now we have 4. But that was one of my first acquisition of a company from a guy that I coached and mentored 5 years prior. The last story I want to share with you is be a connector. This just happened a couple years ago. I also teach here at UCF in the College of Business. I'm an assistant. I teach as a TA, but next semester I'll be an adjunct professor on my own. But I'm doing that to learn more about commercial real estate as a commercial real estate person. I met this young man, and he's getting his master's in real estate at UCF. The most talented person in terms of finance and real estate that I know. He's got a degree from UCF in finance, and he's wrapping up his master's degree in real estate this month, actually. But I found out that he's not working in real estate, and he doesn't love what he does. But I said to myself, why isn't he working in real estate? So I took an interest in talking to him and mentoring him. He calls me big brother, I call him little brother, because I really wanted to help him as much as I can. Because when you see talent, if you're like me, you want to help talent. And so 2 weeks ago, or I should say a couple of months ago, I met a few people. He landed 2 interviews and didn't get the job. So we talked about what went wrong, what happened, did some additional coaching. I'm excited because 2 weeks ago, the last connection that I introduced him to, he was offered a job making well over $100,000 a year, which is double what he's making today. And he starts next week. And so I was more excited about it than he was. He called me last week before he called his parents to tell me, hey, I got the job. I was like, yes. My wife's like, why are you so excited? He's not going to give you any of that money. It's not about that, though. It's not about that. And so here's the thing about connecting. You have to understand how social capital works. And be willing to share your network. This young lady, who is my executive assistant and also the social media marketer for our company, I met her a year ago. I never met her before. I got a call from Tiffany Hughes, who's the CFO at UCF. She goes, I have this amazing person. You have to meet her. She's graduating in 2 semesters, and I think she would be amazing just to meet her. I met her. I said, oh man, we need to hire her. So we hired her as an intern, and before she graduated, we made her an offer to stay with us, and she's full-time and doing an amazing job. So thank you for helping me. But be a mentor to other people. It doesn't have to be someone younger than you. It could be someone who's less experienced than you in that industry. And anybody familiar with John Maxwell? One of my favorite quotes from John Maxwell is this, and you're gonna wanna write this down. Leadership is not about how far you advance yourself, but how far you advance others. That to me was the most powerful quote that I've gotten from John Maxwell since I joined the John Maxwell team years ago. I'll repeat it. Leadership is not about how far you advance yourself, but how far you advance others. So I'm reading this book now. It's a small book titled Who and Not How. A little bit of audience participation. If I say this, I think you're going to finish the rest of it. It's not about it's not about what you know, but who you know. But guess what though? Here's the funny story is that's only part of that book. So I wish you guys would finish the book. Because the second part of the book, it says it's not about who you know, but who knows you. Let me give you an example. What's your name? What's your name?
Jamie.
Jamie. Jamie, if you know you have 1,000 people that you're connected with on LinkedIn, right? Maybe.
Probably.
Do they all know you?
First, no.
Does that help you in any way?
No.
So it's not about who you know, but it's who knows you. Now, if you finish the last part of the book, you'll learn another nugget. It's not just about what you know, but who you know, but who knows you. The most important thing is what they think of you. Here's the thing. If you know someone and they know you, but they think you're a jerk, that's not going to help you. It's what they think of you. So character matters when you're networking. So I wanted to spend a few minutes to talk to the amazing alumni group here tonight to just share what I've learned over the years from a number of people about networking. It's about amplifying the impact through social capital. Thank you.